Welcome to the Ion Podcast, guys. Welcome back. Today it's a special edition. You know, we have a special guest, just to let you guys know. Well, before we actually tell you the guest is, you know who I am already. To my left, we got old boy Eddie right here. To my right over here, we got Dustin. And we did have a special guest. His name was Trey. We sat right here. But because we've already started the video, like halfway through it, but the microphones went out, so there was no sound. So basically, we had to stop halfway and start again and turn the sounds on. And basically, what's happened is, yeah, we didn't get majority of the video. We've only got where we left off. So basically what we're gonna do is just play it from this point on, just to kind of summarize how
our guest's name was Trey.
Trey, yeah.
Right? And his situation's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
He has a very important story to tell.
He's going to prison.
He's going to prison for 15 years.
15 years.
On a federal indictment. And he just wanted to sit here and tell his story. Unfortunately, for some reason, the mics were not connected.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
We're just going to start off right where he left off. You know, he gave a little bit of backstory of where he grew up and his family and all that. And then we'll just pick up right where he left off. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so tune in, guys, and watch it. It's powerful. His story is powerful. It's inspiring. And we got the good thing is we got the best part. We got the conclusion. So watch it. It's important. It might change some of your lives. It's powerful. It's deep. It's authentic. It's raw. It may make some of you all uncomfortable. But yeah. So go ahead and watch that.
All right, get ready, guys. 3,
2,
1. Here you go.
All that last stuff's probably irrelevant anyway.
We still got 15 minutes left on this clip. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're good.
Can I go back a little bit?
Go ahead. Continue.
Well, anyway, so what happened was I get down there and they it takes us forever to get down there, and we drive around the jail. I've got a lot of dope, got a lot of drugs. We're trying to do as much as we can before I get there. Drinking 40s, driving by this jail in Harrison, Arkansas, throwing beer bottles on top of the jail, and wanted. Got 2 different states looking for me, and finally, about daylight, we said, okay, this is time. We're gonna have to pull on in the parking lot here and turn yourself in. Very similar to the situation I'm in now, but I'm handling it completely
differently.
Now it's the feds, and it's at the United States Courthouse in Kansas City, and you not only do you not want to show up, you want to be early. But with this, I'd really pushed them to the limit with this thing, and so I get in there, and they say, well, we need to read you some stuff. We need to read a few things for you. And they said, you're here. We're charging you with possession of drugs, with possession of Schedule II controlled substance, with possession of precursors to manufacture, possession of dangerous weapon, possession of with intent to distribute, and all this stuff. And I'm like, have they been following me around, or what's the deal? And then I said, well, hang on, this sounds a lot like the first case. And they said, yeah, you had a plea agreement to come here for 10 years, on this 10-year deal, and you blew it by not upholding your end of the bargain and by not showing up here. They're refiling on you, and they're going to make an example out of you. They're going to throw the book at you this time. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And I'm standing there behind the counter at the Boone County Jail, and Sharice is like, jump the counter. And I said, what? She's like, jump the counter. And I'm looking, the counter's like this tall, right up to your chest. And the guy's there with a shotgun and a thing on his, and I'm like, I'm not jumping the counter. We should have never pulled in here, And she's like, jump the counter. I'm like, man, come on, And so I'm beat on it, right? So they're refiling on me. So now, instead of going right into DOC, I've got to sit there for a long time and wait for them to refile. And they said, you were lucky to get 10 years that first time. We're really gonna throw the book at you this time. And so at that time, I was like, man, I'm hit on it, and there was no question. And so I was sat down in that jail long enough that I was, I got okay with it. Sharice is coming down there to visit me. And I said, look, she's 9 years younger than I am. And Sharice was gorgeous when we were younger. She was gorgeous. She's gotten older now and gained a little weight, which is no big deal. But she girls get real, self-conscious about that. Not a big deal. But when Sharice was younger, she was thin, gorgeous, a mile of smile, absolutely gorgeous. And and I told her, I said, look, you're young, you're 9 years younger than me. I'm going to be in prison for 10 years. You don't want to be married to some old dude in prison. Beat it. Okay, don't come back up here. Stop writing me. Stop coming to see me. Just go. Let's go, because it's not making it any easier for me to do what I'm doing. and just going about your life, and she's like, no, we're going to work this out. I'm going to get you this, trying to get me into the teen challenge, and I said, they're not going to let me go to Bible camp. They're sending me to, 10 years in prison. Yeah. And I was lucky to get 10 years at the time. But anyway, so she went and came back the following week, and she said, okay, look, I borrowed some money from your parents to get this attorney, and I'm like, you got to be kidding! I said, I would rather do 10 years flat in prison than go have you borrow money from my family, man. I don't want to hear about that. Yeah. But and I said, but anyway, so long story short, she ended up getting this lawyer to present this teen challenge deal, which was an 18-month program. I've done 19 months here in DOC in Missouri, 18 months in this teen challenge in Arkansas. Combined would have been about 3 years, to see if they would find that acceptable in replace of the 3 years that I was going to do on this 10. Yeah. And by that time, I was the trustee down there, and I was back in good graces with the sheriff. He really liked me, and everything was going well. And so they said, and I never in a million years thought it was going to happen. And that's really the first time that I really felt God move in my life, because I was waiting to go to the penitentiary there, and when the judge says, okay, well, we'll allow you to do this. Everybody goes, because I couldn't believe it. They go around the prosecutor going, well, I'm not opposed to it. And the judge goes, well, I mean, he's already done 19 months here. He'd be, comparable. And then the sheriff's like, hey, he's a model inmate, so they all just said, okay. And I'm like, crazy. What? Are you kidding me? I could not believe it.
You know, high right now.
Right. And we, so I really, and so not only did they say, okay, well, you're not going to, well, how do you get there? Well, you just have to report on Monday. This is Friday. Go get your stuff, go home, and report their money. So I come back to the jail, going, get my stuff. Everybody knew I was going over there, and they knew I got 10 the first time. They were waiting to see how much more they gave me. Yeah. And then I come skipping back going, hey, man, I'm going home, And they said, what? They're like, who did you tell?
I know.
And then, what? I mean, I didn't even feel good going. I said, I can't go back there and tell them I'm going home. They're all going to think I'm a snitch, And so I got my stuff, and I get to go home. And so I went into Teen Challenge, and I'll tell you, that was really the first time I really felt God move in my life, that I really felt like God came down and performed a miracle, because we were good kids. We were just doing a ton of drugs and doing things that that get you sent to prison for that long. But in the process, I mean, the Teen Challenge really broke you down, humbled you. I mean, you're at devotions at 5 a.m. in the morning. You're on your knees meditating, praying. You're picking apples, picking strawberries. It's from the morning till evening, and then you're working, and then you're going to class, and you're studying Scripture. Now, there was no 12-step AA stuff involved in there. I mean, it was all spiritual-based program. And which really worked kept me clean for about 20 years of my life, I mean, it really, when we came out of there, Sharice went and said, well, if you're going to the men's teen challenge, I'm going to go in the women's. It's a 12-month program. And so she went, with my mom and dad had them take her, and she went and enrolled in this 12-month teen challenge program in Branson West for the girls, so that when we came out, we could be on the same page in our marriage, in our spirituality, and so really, and so she really went above and beyond. I mean, we were a good team back in the day. She really committed, and I really committed, and so it worked out really well. When we came out of there, we were both on fire for the Lord. We were both really proactive in doing things to stay on the straight and narrow, which worked out great, until I was about 5 years. I said 20 years. About 5 years I stayed completely sober, no drugs or anything else, and or drinking or anything like that. And then we started drinking on the weekends, and and then we started, and then we started doing doing drugs. We get an 8-ball every Christmas at the Christmas party, and we get high, and we think, man, we don't ever want to do that again, because that's a great way to ruin a good evening. So we wouldn't get high again until like the following year.
Yeah, 8-ball was just cocaine.
8-ball, well, this was actually meth at this time. And 8-ball meaning an eighth of an ounce, which is 3.5 grams of methamphetamine. That's the reason they call it an 8. That's the reason they call it an 8-ball, because it's an eighth of an ounce. And but we would get we'd get an 8-ball, $250. We'd throw down on an 8-ball. We'd all get high, and then we'd say, man, we don't ever want to do that again. Because the next day you think, oh my God, and so. And so we wouldn't do it again until the following year. But anyway, it slowly progressed to the point where Sharice and I started really moving up in the company. Sharice was not. We started I started, getting. I was made first of all, I went into from a sales rep to a manager to a supervisor to later on to the general manager, and by the end of it, I was over 2 different states. and really working 6 days a week. On the seventh day, I was doing payroll and newsletter and sucking up all my time, and a lot of ego in there, a lot of pride, and thinking. And Sharice and I were kind of growing separate ways, and we ended up, we were doing drugs, doing a lot more drugs. And, and our marriage was falling apart, and we weren't focusing on the same goals that we used to and same stuff that we used to. So we ended up, getting high, fighting all the time. And then, we decided to split up. Well, the big thing that happened, the deal breaker, the whole game changer in my story is, that DFS came out there. The cops were called when we were fighting out there in the middle of the yard, and DFS came out there and took our children into custody. And now, and I never thought that could happen to me. Never in a million years did I think they were going to be able to take my kids. And I was devastated over that. Devastated. And I bucked up against it. I wouldn't cooperate with them. I was non-compliant. Right out of the gate, and that 1 week, I thought it was going to be a week, turned into a few weeks, turned into they handed us a contract that we got to complete that took a year to get our kids back. Wow. And that 1 year turned into 6 years, okay? They and I'll tell you this, and I'll tell for the viewers to know, I had numerous opportunities to submit, surrender, and do the right thing. From DFS demanding that I go to rehab, which I would not do. Told I didn't need to go to rehab. I faked the UAs and everything else, and I, and acted like I didn't have a drug problem, which they all knew that I did. They knew I was doing dope. They knew I was selling dope. And I had numerous opportunities then to go to rehab. I had my bosses later on down the road say, Trey, we'll get you in this CORE program over here. And I don't know if you guys have heard of CORE here in Branson, but it's a 12-month program. And I'm like, I'm not doing 12 months and nothing. But they said, Trey, we'll take everything in your house. We'll have a moving company coming here. By that time, Sharice and I had split up, and I was on my own. And they said, well, come in and get all this stuff. We'll load it all up. We'll put it in storage. We'll pay the storage for a year, give you the receipt and the key. And so that all your stuff is here when you get out. Yeah. And all you have to do is just get in the car and go to CORE. Wow. And I wouldn't do it. Absolutely refused to do it. Now you fast forward here, 3 years later, and here I am with a federal indictment. Now you're going for 15 years. And man, I wish I would have went to CORE. You took that deal. Yeah. But I felt I didn't have to do it. I was like I said, I was egotistical. I was selfish. I didn't think it didn't matter. I didn't think that that I was ever that I had to, that I needed to, and I wasn't going to. And so my whole point is in this whole thing that
before you go through that, go ahead and reset it now.
So basically, the whole point of that was what I really wanted to get across was that came from very bad beginnings. Damaged my life, shot myself in the foot right out of the gate by shortchanging myself with no education, dropping out of school, getting in trouble all over the United States, to going to prison here in Missouri, to getting out, starting over, having a fresh start, having a second chance from God, which is the reason that I've already had a second chance at the beginning, and so I'm really pushing my luck here with another one because God really worked in my life, and I really was grateful at the beginning, but I slowly became less and less grateful and appreciative, and I slowly started taking that for granted, and started falling back into old behaviors. And the next thing you know, I was right back out there getting high, doing the same stuff again, all over, 10 times worse. And so my marriage had already fallen apart. It cost me my kids. When DFS took my kids, I was, should have been a turning point in my life, where I should have been, hey, that's when I need to turn around. But at that point, I was so high, and I was so heartbroken and so devastated that I went off the rails, and I really didn't start doing things that because I was just buying 8 balls on the weekends or the holidays to begin with. I didn't start doing things that would get you federally indicted until they took my children. When they took my children, all bets were off. I started making big moves and doing outrageous stuff, and doing things. Got in on the tail end of a 10-year investigation, with some Mexicans out of Kansas City. There's 2 above me on the indictment. One I know, one I don't know. And but I think they were already under investigation, I believe. Because they said it was a 10-year investigation. At 10 years prior to that, I was doing good. But anyway, so started getting it right back to where it's 10 times worse. And then I got hit again on this indictment. Now the thing is, my life had fallen apart really. At that point, I'd become homeless again. I'd went from doing really well to right back down to I was living in my truck and doing drugs, just trying to survive, and we got busted here in Missouri with this. And they've had cameras on my storage unit. They pulled us over. They told me it wasn't for anything, not for nothing. They said we didn't pull you over for nothing. There's a reason behind this. They have cameras on my storage unit. I knew there was something bigger going on, but they busted me. I had a half pound of meth in my truck, and they charged me with that. They charged me with some guns out of my storage unit, and then we were waiting for the other shoe to drop to find out what was going to go down. And they said that you're going to hear from us. They charged me, released me, and let me go, and said you'll hear from us. And I thought, what's going on? And everybody said, man, you're getting federally indicted. And I'm like, there's no way we're getting federally indicted, And so, but it came around that I knew I still needed to do something. I was waiting to hear what was up with these charges, but I knew I needed to do something for my life. So my girlfriend finally talked me into checking into rehab up here, standing by the door, and I checked in there March 31st of 2 years ago, March 31st, and then the indictment came down the following day, April Fool's Day. Who knew the cops had a sense of humor? April Fool's Day, they came in, bam, and dropped the indictment, arrested us right here in the parking lot of the center that I'm teaching at now. Okay, they came in there. The U.S. Marshals came in from 3 different sides and took us into custody and said picked up everybody on the indictment. There was 8 people on the indictment of different parts of Branson and Kansas City, and took us into custody. And so I was 1 day into this rehab program on my own. And so fortunately, when we go before the judge, they let 3 of us out on pretrial release because the big determining factors being, number 1, I hadn't been in trouble in 20 years since I went back to prison 20 years ago. I hadn't been in any trouble since I got out of Teen Challenge and this whole time. I was employed up here working at the Denny's restaurant, and I was living in a sober living program by 1 day. And so all those factors together, and even but you go back, and I talked about my extensive drug history and legal criminal history up until that point of 20 years prior to that. He said, man, you have an extensive drug history. He said, I really wasn't going to let you out, but it's all over 20 years old. You are working, you are in a program. And he said, so we're going to let you out on pretrial. It was me, my girlfriend, who is my co-defendant, and another friend of ours, and they let us out on pretrial, and which meant federal bond, means you get to go home. The rest of them are still sitting in Bates County right now in Kansas City. You get to go home, and you have to report with the federal probation officer and jump through these hoops, and then you'll get to stay out. Well, we're the only 2 left is Shani and I. She's my co-defendant and was my girlfriend throughout this whole time. We have since by no other really legally we can't be together. We're on a no contact together. So, and we're in this program where we're trying to really give our lives over to God and really help other people. And so I still love her to death and hold her in high regard, but we don't spend any time together because we can't due to our legal situation. But we were the only 2. The other guy that was out with us, he got rolled up right out of the gate. He violated. He got high. He got a DWI, and so they took him right back into custody. So out of the 8 people, we were the only 2 left as we go to get sentenced here next week. Yeah, out of the 8, there were the only 2 that are still out on bond, and so I was really fortunate in that aspect. But so I go into this program over here. They let me back out on bond and I have to go back into standing by the door. And I was saying earlier to these guys, to Eddie and to Claudio, and then I was telling you that Dustin, right? I was telling you, Dustin, that my testimony is kind of different in the fact that a lot of guys get up there and give their testimony and say, I came here to change my life, came here to find God, and I came here to get sober. I didn't come there for any of that. I really didn't. I mean, it's sad to say. I was so selfish and so self-centered and so self-absorbed, and I just came there because I thought it was going to keep me from going to prison. And I thought, well, if I complete this program, maybe that'll keep me out of jail, and really selfish in that aspect. But little did I know that you still go to prison, okay? Yeah. But in the process, I did get sober, 22 months clean. I did rekindle my relationship with God. Which I had a good foundation in Teen Challenge, but I also got my family back in order. I was on a no contact with my children. I was on restraining orders with my children, with Sharice, with everybody. Wow. They all had restraining orders on me, and I wasn't allowed to even visit my kids and whatever. And so now I'm back I've got joint custody. I'm seeing I'm with my kids every day. So I really got all these other things that I wasn't looking for, in return instead of that, which was so much more valuable. That now I graduated the program. I stayed on an additional. I was there 16 months. I graduated in 6 months. I stayed on an additional 10 months to be a house manager, to try and help, try and give back into the program. And then I went on to start teaching classes there at the center, then moved on to, it developed into another gig over here at the Simmering Center. Now I'm back over here standing by the door. And then sponsoring, new clients that come in there who are just straight off the street or straight out of jail or whatever the case may be. And really and trying to to selflessly give of my time and try and give back what was so freely given to me. One of the things it says in the big book, that once you get yourself in order spiritually, that the physical and mental stuff kind of follows right behind it, and it's very, very true that we really had to once I got lined out and really gave myself over to the program, and it took me a while, just like Tom was saying the other day. He was saying to see you. Now we would, nobody would have ever thought that, and I don't really notice the big change in me as much as other people start to notice. Other people start to notice because I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to be doing and stay busy and keep my mind occupied and stay. But other people start noticing, and then sometimes I'll say some things like, "Did I really say that? That doesn't sound like the old me."
The old me, yeah.
That sounded like that like generally somebody trying to help somebody, and it's really amazing what God can do in your life. I do want to give props to the 12 Steps of AA, because really what they do, one of the big things that goes back is you first of all, you just got to admit that your life's unmanageable, and you got to admit there's a power greater than yourself, and that and then you got to commit to giving your life over to God and let him run the show. And then when you do that, you need to go back and look at all these resentments that you've got in your life that you built up as a kid, with my stepdad all the way on to my mom for not protecting me, my stepdad for abusing me, my DFS for taking my kids, and my ex-wife for leaving me, whatever, and you process all these, and you got to you got to look at their side of the deal, and you got to say, did they know any better? Did they? Who knows what was going on in their lives? Who knows how my stepdad was raised? He probably didn't know any better. He came from 13 brothers and sisters who all lived out in the woods as well, and he probably his childhood was probably 10 times worse. He probably thought he was doing me a favor. Who knows? But the whole thing is that I've got to ask God. I've got to forgive him. I've got to ask God to save me from being angry at him, and I've got to let those things go, because all these things are what I thought defined me, or what's blocking me off from God, And so it's really a logical, common sense program. You get rid of these resentments, you get rid of these fears, you get rid of it. You atone for and make amends for your personal conduct where you've harmed other people, where you've done other people wrong. You make amends wherever possible, and then you hold yourself accountable, and you take a daily inventory at the beginning of the day. You pray and you ask God, hey, to direct my thoughts and my actions. And to keep my thoughts on a spiritual plane. And at the end of the day, you go back and review your day and say, do I owe anybody an apology? Was I selfish anywhere today? Was I kind to other people? Was I, was I self-centered? Was I rude? And could I have done better during the course of my day somewhere? And really kind of evaluate your day and take a regular daily inventory of your day every day. And if you're conscious enough to do that, one of the things that when you pause, I pause when I'm agitated, because I'm a hothead. I'm going to tell you right now, it's real easy for me to think, I've had such a rough life, and for me to be bitter and resentful, and so I give all these things up, but I got to be careful not to be a hothead and be quick too quick to fire off at the mouth, and so I have to pause during the course of the day. If I get agitated, I work in a restaurant, so it's easy to do. And I have to pause when I'm agitated. And one of my things my sponsor says, well, I never regretted anything that I didn't say, and I got to remember, bite my tongue. I don't go firing off in the mouth and too quickly, and humble myself a little bit and ask God for the right thought or direction. And I find that every time that I pause and don't react immediately in a situation, it usually does me a lot better. And too, because I'm under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, because I'm coming up here anytime now. I'm going to be going to prison. But one of the things I wanted to say to the audience, or everybody who's watching, is that it doesn't matter the situation, whether you come from a matter of fact, really the worse your situation is, the worst background, because I know some people who come from really bad backgrounds, and I get out there and I give my story, and then I think, oh man, mine's not even half as bad. Those people have really been through it. I'm over here crying because I'm going to prison. These people have been sexually abused since they were kids. They were locked in a box, shipped across here, whatever. Made it out, and finally got back to the, and I'm like, oh my God, and so, but. We were talking about earlier, like, in Genesis, 50, 21, 22, where Joseph, was talking to his brothers. This was after they sold him out, and then he comes back into power, and he says, look, what you meant for evil, God meant for good, and so that it may come about that many others might be saved, and so he said, so fear not, I will provide for you and your family, and thus he comforted them and spoke to them kindly, and that's the thing is that. What the world meant for evil, God meant for good. Because growing up as a kid, when you're child abuse and being a childhood trauma, not your fault, nothing that you can do about that. But you can either wallow in self-pity about it, or you can use it to help other people. And so so if you've been in some really bad situations, the good news is that it's not all for nothing. The good news is that every bit of that bad stuff you're going to be able to use and turn around and reach people that therapists and medical professionals cannot reach because they haven't been through it. You're going to be able to talk to people that have been through some stuff that you've been through and help them, and realize that there is hope, that they can turn their lives around, that you can use every bit of that bad stuff that you thought was going to be a black mark on your name for the rest of your life. And you can turn to and use every bit of that to help people. And now that and the people that did that to you are sitting there watching, going, "Man, I thought I really did him in on that deal, and he's using it all to help everybody." Man, you can't hold this guy down, and just serve it right back to him, and so I know that I'm going to federal prison. I thoroughly believe that God's got his hand over the situation, and that wherever God wants me, that's where I'm going to be. I'm definitely really praying for God to move in a big way on my sentencing, but I know that it's not going to completely alleviate that. If I get under double digits, if I get under 10, thank you, Lord, because they're offering me 15, and so anything under 10, I think is a win. But the fact is that I know I am going, so it's not like I'm not going to go, because I am, but. They've all assured me that. My lawyers promised me, the prosecutors promised me, I know I'm going. But the thing is that I can go there with a clear conscience and a sober mind and an open heart, and say, I couldn't be in a better spot physically, mentally, or spiritually prepared to go. My kids, trying to explain it to them, and they're like, because that's really the whole heartbreaker of the deal is these children. Because I got what I got coming because it's my fault. My children have done nothing wrong, and so for them to be without a dad is a heartbreaker, and it's really that's a tough one to swallow. But I explained to them that, look, just because I'm doing good now and doing great now and spending all this time helping people now and doing the right thing doesn't mean I don't have to answer for the things that I've done, because you do. I said I've got to be a good example for these kids on this side of the bars or the other. And they watch everything I do and everything I say, and so they hold me accountable too, because I can't not walk it like I talk it. I've got to do exactly what I tell them I'm going to do, and so I've got to be there and take one on the chin, and whatever I've got coming, that's what I've got to do. But you can either look at it, as and wallow in self-pity about it, or you can use it as an opportunity to go on and continue to to help others do the right thing and just make the best of a bad situation. So that's my story.
That's amazing.
That's my message.
Oh, that's a powerful story. That is powerful.
And I look at it, with these kids, I think, I never in a million years thought that I would be jeopardizing my children's future by running out there doing drugs, selling drugs, and doing the things that I was doing. Never crossed my mind. Meanwhile, it's really cost them a lot of opportunities, but I also try to afford them as many opportunities as I can and just make the best of a bad situation. And hopefully we'll be back in touch with them, back in their lives as soon as possible. And I thank you guys for having me. You guys are you guys are inspiring, man, to see you out here doing good. and you're not even without the threat of going to prison. You're just doing it because it's the right thing to do, and so that's good. You know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
We just have a couple of questions.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we'll let him go. We'll let him go because he's a busy man. He's got stuff to do. So and we wanna wish him the best, and we'll keep you in touch with Trey's story and how he's doing.
Yeah, stay tuned because next week they'll let you know how it worked out.
Don't you worry, God's gonna do something here. I'm telling you right now, God's gonna do something here. But go ahead, you start quickly.
So have you ever reconciled with your parents?
Yes, that was something that I was able to do. Didn't come real easy at first. My dad didn't want to really hear much about it. He didn't want to hear a lot of talk. He wanted to see some action, And so, yes, but I was able to. That was a big one that weighed heavy on me. Was actually being able to reconcile with my parents too. I wasn't allowed on their property when this whole thing started. Now we go out there every Sunday and help them with the chickens. I just helped them build this chicken coop out there, and they're getting on up in age, so he's a little more reasonable. He's starting to get kind of delirious now, which really helps because he's real hard ass. And he's old cantankerous, and he's very from the old school. But yeah, that wasn't as easy. They wanted to see more than they wanted to hear, and so it was kind of slow going at first. But they watched me continue to try and do the right thing, and then slowly we were able to break down some barriers, and I was able to apologize for some of the things that I did, for not being there, and for letting them down, and for not fulfilling, not being a good son, not being a good dad. And so we had some heart-wrenching conversations around the table, and it was nice for them to listen, to forgive me. Really felt good. And so for me to be able to be a good son and try to give back to them as much as I can really makes me feel good as well.
Yeah. Is it, did they apologize as well, or it was
not so much, but they're not in a program, so they don't have they're not doing as much self-evaluation as I am, and that's one of the things that I had to consider, was that there were a lot of things. It wasn't all my fault. There were a lot of things that they did, but they're older. That's how they are. They're stuck in their ways. Did they think they were doing the right thing? Of course they did. They thought they were doing the right thing the whole time. If they would have known any better, they would have done it differently. They didn't. I forgave them for the things that I was resentful for over that, and I asked God to show, to allow me, number one, to save me from being angry, and to show them the same patience, pity, and tolerance that I would cheerfully grant a sick friend. And understand their side of the deal, because my mother was a big one with not protecting me when I was younger. I was never bitter towards her, never held her in a bad light at all. When I was a child, I put her up on a pedestal. It wasn't until I got to be an adult, that I realized, man, how could you let that happen? You're my first line of defense as a child. How could you let that happen? So once I got older, then I developed a resentment towards her about why she didn't protect me. And then and I talked to her about it, and she said, Trey, I was just as scared as you were. She said, I was a child as well. I didn't know any better. She said, I was just as scared as you were, and I didn't never take into consideration what happened in my mom's life. She was adopted. They were abandoned in Arkansas when she was younger, and they were left, and abandoned and adopted under the radar to these people down in Louisiana, who was my grandparents. And I never considered. And she said, I've got things that happened to me when I was a child that I'll take to my grave, and never once did I ever any of that cross my mind and think what she went through. And so I get it, so I don't harbor any ill will towards them. I thank them for not harboring any will towards me. I forgave them, they forgave me, and it feels good, and it's a huge weight lifted off your shoulders, and it really is nice to clear the air, right? And you think when you forgive somebody, you think too that you're doing it for them, and it ends up being a blessing
for you. Yeah. So any question? Because you got any question for him, real quick? Because I'm gonna save my questions into when you get back.
Okay.
I believe that you're gonna be sat here.
All right.
I'm not gonna say a time frame, but I'm saying I believe you're gonna be sat here after the fact. So I'm gonna wait until that time comes, so then the viewers know that this is the real deal. Awesome. So I'll wait for my question then.
Awesome.
For you.
Right. I guess the only thing is, your story is very inspiring. And not just for us, because it's hard for us to relate, because we haven't been through much of a similar situation.
Yeah.
But for anyone who is watching, who can relate to you, it's probably very inspiring for them. And I just want to ask if there's anything, a message you want to put out there to anybody who knows you or who just sees your story like just one simple message for them.
Especially if you grew up with friends, like close friends, and the relationship went sideways.
Right.
If you have any message for
Well, I just want to say that, throughout this whole thing, that, never meant to do the damage that I did. Never set out with any ill intent. Or to nobody ever sets out to be a drug addict or a drug dealer or a bad parent or a bad husband or anything like that. But those things happen, and I just want to say that first of all, anybody who made it out who didn't get indicted, congratulations to you. I'm happy for you because it's really unnecessary. But I do want to say for the ones who who did make it out, who've been through similar situations, all the people that I grew up with did. That I love you guys, and if you can just keep doing the right thing for the children out there, the kids. I tell my rocker and his kids that are a lot of those guys come to the gym, and I see those kids, and one of the things I wanted to tell them was just to stay in school, to stay close to your family, to surround yourself with good people, with good ethics and good morals, and for the girls, the women in your life, hey, don't rush it, because God's going to put the right one in your life. You have patience, because as guys, that's all we do, man. Is that we chase the women, and that's something that I did. That's something that they say all the time. Every guy's in prison either for a woman or about a woman. And so don't rush that, because God's going to put the right one in your life, and you don't need to go out and find the the craziest ones. God's going to put a good one in your life. And man, if I would have, I would have been so thrilled if I would have went through high school, graduated high school, fell in love with my high school sweetheart, married her, and lived happily ever after. Yeah, that would have been great. And I did exactly the opposite. And but not at all worth it. You're not missing nothing. Stay in school, do what you're supposed to do. Got to put the right woman in your life, and you'll be blessed to have a happy, successful life with a good family, and you couldn't ask for any more than that.
Awesome. Amen. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Eddie.
Eddie. Yeah. So we're gonna let him go, because the man's got stuff to do, and we've kept him too long, and we appreciate you. Yeah. Thank you for your time, Trey.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Remember the last thing?
What?
Of course, guys. Subscribe to the channel.
Yep. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Go subscribe to the channel. Go ahead.
Subscribe to the channel. Like, and of course share. Leave your comments if you have any comment about this episode. Of course, if you have a question, leave the comment. We will answer your question.
For sure, we will.
Are you guys ready?
Are you guys ready on 1,
2, 3, cut!